Hey y'all, I'm Brer Sam, and this is one of my movie reviews. Today I watched the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus for the first time. I watched a clip from this film last spring, and from what I saw, it seemed like a decent film. And now that I've watched the whole thing, I can say that it is a decent film. So you have this act that's traveling, it's like a traveling circus or something. You do see people in makeup and in costumes and all that stuff. So we're not technically a circus, but I think the act is actually called an Imaginarium. I don't know. And what happens is that you see these performers on a stage and they sort of dare their customers to walk through this mirror-like thing that's actually a curtain into an imaginary world, seemingly from the customer's imagination. Like, for example, somebody walked in and it led to this sort of like roller coaster-like place where it's colorful and there's bubbles, and that was a really nice set, more like. There's a lot of special effects here. This was done in 2009, so you'll see a lot of CG here. But the act itself is also sort of failing in a way, because the fact that it's imaginary is becoming too obvious. Like, for example, there's one girl who is pretending to be a 12-year-old child, but it's really obvious that she's grown up. So they need to do something about this, and then eventually they rescue this guy, Tony, played by Heath Ledger, from being hanged to his death. And he comes up with some ways to save the act, like changing the show and entering through the curtains themselves. And the situations they get into are pretty cool. For example, you have sort of this romance. Like, I thought that Heath Ledger and the girl character would be like in love, but you see her more romantically attached to this other guy. I can't remember his name, but he's played by Andrew Garfield. So that was a little confusing, but I don't know. And knowing me, you're probably going to expect me to talk about the cast, and I am. Heath Ledger was really good. And this film was dedicated to his memory, so I'm guessing he died during production. But he still did a good job. And actually, you see another version of him in the Imaginarium world through the curtains, and that version of him is played by Johnny Depp, and it's relatively small, but still, it's Johnny Depp. It's got to be good. And Andrew Garfield was really good. I thought he was a handsome fella in that movie. And you also have this character, Percy, and he's played by Vern Troyer. And I was a little apprehensive about seeing him in another movie, especially after the cringeworthy disaster that was Austin Powers, the movies that Mr. Troyer is known for. The only other movie of his that I actually saw is Harry Potter, and I liked him fine in Harry Potter. I mean, the goblin look that they gave him, it suited him. And also, I love Harry Potter, so what could possibly be bad about that one little appearance? In this film, however, he surprised me. His character was actually funny, and unlike in Austin Powers, it actually seemed human. It was refreshing to hear Vern talk with his normal voice. And in Harry Potter, he did talk, but his voice was dubbed. Yeah. So he was good here too. Very good, surprisingly good, I will say. There were a lot of times where I laughed at something he said or did. So yeah, even Troyer is good in this. And Dr. Parnassus himself is played by Christopher Plummer. I love Christopher Plummer. I've seen him in The Battle of Britain, one of my dad's favorites. I heard his voice in Disney Pixar's Up. And of course, I've seen him in The Sound of Music, one of his bestest known films, and certainly one of his best. Here he's an old guy, but I still recognize him by his voice and the shape of his head. He has a very distinctive look and voice to him, and that's great. Makes the actor all the more recognizable, especially when he's famous. The look of the movie is, I mean, it's kind of like Harry Potter. I mean, it's a magical world, but it's also dark at the same time. And actually, when I was watching it, my mother walked by and asked if it was Harry Potter, and picked a bad spot to film this. And it wasn't Harry Potter. It was a completely different film, but with a similar set. And I loved the imaginary worlds, even if there were some instances, like for example, there's one where you think it's a lady, but then she pulls her head off, and this guy is at a control panel and inside her, and I'm like, okay, that was weird. Yeah, there were a few scenes like that made it a little bit weird, but it works. Weird movies are good like that, and actually when I described this film to my father, he asked if David Lynch directed it, because especially the curtain thing seems like something straight out of his brain. But it's not a David Lynch film, but it seems like one, but it's not. So overall, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is a very decent fantasy-like film. I always like fantasy films, and it actually took something that might have been David Lynch style and maybe even too weird for me, and turned it into something that was kind of neat and very unique. Like, in what other movie would you see a circus act have a curtain that takes you into your own imagination? Yeah, that's actually brilliant. So this film is decent. I don't think it's one I'll be watching over and over, but it's definitely pretty good. Definitely pretty good. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!